Alondra de la Parra, welcome to Beyond Stage Fright. You're considered to be one of the most compelling conductors of your generation, and you've gained widespread recognition for your spellbinding and vibrant performances. At the age of 23, you founded the Philharmonic Orchestra of the Americas, designed to showcase musicians from Mexico and the United States. You guest conduct some of the most prestigious orchestras in the world, and you've just been appointed music director of the Queensland Symphony Orchestra in Australia, starting 2017. You've developed education programs in schools in New York and throughout Mexico, and you do multidisciplinary collaborations with actors such as Robert Redford and musicians such as Gloria Estefan. As an international conductor with so many accolades and so much success, do you have any type of performance nerves on the concert platform?
Well, honestly, not so much, because to me, when I get nervous, it's mostly before the first rehearsal, when I'm in the hotel or at home preparing and I'm looking at the score and I'm thinking, do I know this piece well enough? Will I be able to communicate with the orchestra in a positive way? Will this be a success musically? And that's when I'm nervous. But when I'm on stage, I rarely get nervous. I'm mostly excited. And the better the orchestra is, in a way, as you say, the more pressure there would be. But for me, the more exciting it is, because it's great sound that I'm going to get to work with and wonderful human beings that are so capable. So the less stress I have, I think.
And how do you manage performance anxiety? How do you make things work for yourself?
Well, frankly, when I was a piano student and I had a school of music, when I was a pianist and I had to perform as a pianist, I had such a hard time with nerves and performance anxiety and all that. For me, it was really nerve-wracking to stand on a stage by myself and give a recital. The memory, the trust in that something could go wrong in my mind at a split second and I could lose track of things and it would be so evident. That was really, really difficult. But as a conductor, I've never experienced stage fright, I have to say. Really, I don't think I've ever been nervous on the podium, on stage at a concert. I've been nervous in rehearsals, as I was saying, definitely. But in concert, by the time the concert comes, you've already rehearsed everything. You already know what's going to happen, and you've already had the opportunity to do whatever it takes to make it wonderful. So it's all before. And then when the concert comes, it's all about just making a great connection with the musicians and with the music and making everything that you worked for happen. But I think preparation is the key in terms of conducting. I can tell you, as a pianist, no matter how much I prepared, I was always very, very nervous. So it's a kind of a contradiction what I'm saying, but in conducting, where I feel that it's definitely my profession, my calling, the thing that's easier for me. It's not that it's easy at all, but I just always felt that it was a natural profession for me. Whereas as a pianist, I never felt that. I always felt I had to work so hard, and I never got where I wanted to. I think preparation, knowing the music. If you don't know the music, of course you're going to be nervous, and you're going to be really nervous. But I just don't let that ever happen. It's not an option.
So how do you prepare for a performance, both in the weeks beforehand, but also on the day itself?
On the weeks before, I prepare by studying the score a lot, asking myself questions about the score, reading about the music that I'm going to work on with the musicians, and creating a very clear sound model of how it has to sound, and having a clear idea about every single note on the score. And so then the rehearsals come, and then we rehearse and we work on this, and I try to achieve everything that was planned. And then there's a lot of things that come up that were not planned, and that's pretty much it. And I think, in a way, we are there to give confidence to the musicians as well. So the ones that could get nervous at some points could be the musicians, but not the conductor. So I don't get the chance to be nervous. I have to be very grounded and in a way kind of zen, kind of available, quiet inside, and I'm just there listening and making things work in the best way possible. And sometimes the best way possible is getting out of the way, and others is provoking something, and others is simply giving a hand to somebody who's maybe not so sure and needs this confidence. For example, if someone makes a mistake, or you can even see, you can smell when someone's nervous before that happens, before they play. And so I'm already thinking, what can I do to make this person more confident? And that's our job. And so I'm more in that state where I don't get a chance to be nervous, because I'm there to make everybody feel confident. But the day off, I usually just try to stay quiet and calm. So we usually have the dress rehearsal, and so we do that, and then the rest I try to save my energy the most I can, because it's a very physical thing to conduct, and you need power. And if you go out and go to the park, a museum, and then have lunch with friends and then go to a concert, that's not a very good idea, because by the time you get to the concert, you're not quiet, you're not settled. And so I just try to plan my day and just do as little as possible. I always take a nap before a concert, and then make sure I think this is a very important thing, make sure you give a lot of time for you to get to the hall, to get ready, to anything. I always give plenty of time, because that's the one thing that could get you nervous, to not be there on time, or be there, just fixing this when it's like already 8 o'clock, and that's not a good idea. I always try to be there, be ready there, completely ready 1 hour before, not ready 5 minutes before. And then that hour, and then some people come to your dressing room and want to say hello and all that, and you're just like, so it's better to be calm, and then you can say hello and be able to deal with that, or anything that can come up, and then you think about the music, and you have time to breathe and drink some water, and then everything's good. I think that's the key, is to make sure there's plenty of time.
So how do you keep your focus when you're on stage?
Well, conductors have to think of so many things at once. We have to think of what just happened musically, what is happening in this very moment, and provoking what's going to happen in the near future, seconds later, or even thinking of the end of the piece or so on. And so we are in 3 time dimensions and temporal dimensions, and then we are also engaging with 100 people in front. So there's no way to lose concentration, because your mind is so full, and you have to have all these tracks going on, and you're just there. So there's no space for nervous. There's no space for thinking, what are people thinking about me? There's no space for, and you're just in the music. You're just thinking, okay, this phrase goes this way, and then this person comes in with this sound, and I want it to blend with this, and then the rhythms over here, and we're good. And we're just going through all this. I don't know if they're even thoughts, because it's like you're just there. You're open to that, and there's no real space for losing concentration. I think I would lose concentration if there was very little information. Then you can start wondering. But when there's so much, your mind is so busy, you can't lose it.
What about the recording studio for nerves and stress? Is that very different?
Oh yeah, recording is very stressful actually, and that's when you really need concentration, because contrary to a performance where you're just going and moving and flowing, and in this motion that you never go back, you just go forward, then that's very, in a way, it's easier. But in a recording, you want everything to be perfect, whereas in a performance, you want everything to be felt and real, not necessarily perfect. I mean, it would be great if it was perfect, but that's not, in my case, that's not the goal. In a recording, you do want everything to be perfect. You want the chords to be completely in tune, everybody to come exactly where they have to be together, to the millisecond. And that's a totally different frame of mind to get perfection. So everybody's trying so hard to be perfect. and then you lose emotion, you lose energy, and then so you have to compensate and say, no. Okay, we still need to give emotion, because otherwise, who wants a perfect, mechanical recording? We want perfection, precision, but we want emotion. So that's hard, because also you don't really have time to get into that. You have to just start and have it, and then you stop, and then you start again, and then you stop, and so that's very tiring, because your concentration after 20 takes of the same stop, and it doesn't, and it's you almost stop listening. You can't really figure out what's happening, and that is hard. And also the mode that all the musicians are in is to try to get it perfect, as I said before, and you have to get them out of that, because it gets very, very tiring. And then you have the producer talking on a speaker, so you're not really in complete control of the situation. You're partnering with somebody else. It's very different, and really, really tiring. I think it's a lot more tiring to do a 3-hour recording session than a 3-hour concert.
And what about the logistics of being an international conductor? You travel a lot, and I know now you've got a little baby as well. How are you going to manage all of that?
Well, yes, it's definitely a complicated life in a way, because you have to see flights and schedules, and then I have packing lists even for the baby. He's only 2 months old, and he has his packing list, and so you learn to live on the road and to make it your home, and I've learned to like it a lot. Wherever I go, I try to make myself feel as if I live there. I always prefer to stay at an apartment than at a hotel. I go to a supermarket and I buy exactly the same things that I buy everywhere. I do the same exercise that I do everywhere. I try to eat sort of the same. And I try to, through Skype actually, I try to see the people that I always see and talk. And so I try to maintain a certain stability that way, so that I don't feel like I'm missing out on life and I'm just lost. So I try to just kind of stay steady in many things, and and if that happens, then I feel fine, and I don't feel like I'm missing out. On the contrary, I feel really grateful that I can then go out and see a new city that I don't know, that I can hear different languages, that I hear that I work with different orchestras and different ways of thinking. But it's definitely logistics. You have to be very, very organized, and you have to always planning ahead 2 or 3 years sometimes. And it's hard, because they tell you, okay, you're going to conduct this orchestra in 2 years' time, and then in 6 months later or a year later, your best friend tells you that it's their wedding, that she's going to get married, for example, and it's exactly, and you already said yes, and there's not really a way to cancel these things. And you can't say it's my best friend's wedding. Nobody really would understand that. And it's hard, because that to me is the hardest. That the planning is so far in advance that nobody else plans like that. I think it's only musicians, and maybe there's other professions, but performing artists, I guess, it's a little difficult, because a lot of people just live day to day or month to month or year to year, but not 2 or 3 years before. I know where we're going to be, and I'm already booking flights for a year and a half from now. So it's hard. You really have to want to do this. You can't just, think it's okay. You have to really be passionate to go through all the sacrifices and efforts that you have to.
There have been some extraordinary musicians and extraordinary performances that have come out of Latin America in recent years. And I'm sort of fascinated by this, because there seems to be some sort of quality about, maybe it's the people, maybe it's the music that's coming out of Latin America, that's really infecting sort of enthusiasm in the whole musical world at large. Have you got any sort of views about that?
Well, I'm glad that's happening, because for many years, maybe 10, 12, 11 years ago, when I founded the Philharmonic Orchestra of the Americas in New York, that was my dream, to found an orchestra that would focus on music of the Americas, performers of the Americas, and promoting the repertoire that not many people in orchestras knew or performed. And to think that now, 10 years later, it's a different world, and that's the case. It makes me really, really happy. Well, I think it has to do with, yes, definitely our surroundings, our personality as a culture, where we are very festive, I would say. We like sharing, where family is the center of everything. And yeah, sometimes there's a certain lightness to it, for sure. But on the contrary, it's not just that. Yes, we are the rhythmic, folky, beautiful tunes and music and groups. But there's a lot of history of very sophisticated music that has been influenced by European music, but also developed in its own language in all of these countries, in Brazil and Argentina, Mexico. And I'm also happy when I share Mexican music in other cultures, and they are surprised that is not what they expected. That is not, as I said, the folky rhythmic thing.
And what does it feel like when everything's going really well on stage?
Well, that's rare. There's always something going wrong, and you have to be on it. It's like pilots in a plane in a way. I'm sure that everything's fine, and the plane is not going to crash. But there's always something that they're looking at. Maybe this is, and that is their job, to be preventing anything that could possibly go wrong. In the same way, the conductors, when things are going well, you're always alert of anything that could possibly not be perfect and not be great, so that we are on it and it's our job to fix it. But what's really nice is when there's a connection, when there's a human, spiritual connection with the musicians, when we're all there and everybody's totally selfless, and we're just in the music for the music, and you can feel that energy. That's amazing. And that's not necessarily when things are going well perfectly. It's about soul and generosity, and just a very simple, humble human connection. And that I really, really love. That's what I love about my job, those moments.
Alondra de la Parra, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.